welcome to the Copilot Studio Dudecast, where we go through things that are going on with Copilot Studio and conversational AI, and in every episode I try to bring you the best people from the conversational AI space. So let's go explore together what's going on in conversational AI. This episode is sponsored by the AI and Copilot Summit running March 17th through the 19th at Torrey Pines Hilton in San Diego, where 750 plus business and technology leaders will join folks like myself and Donna Sarkar and others from Microsoft, along with dozens of speakers from the community to explore the potential of AI on business outcomes. Register today at copilotsummitna.com. And thanks to them for sponsoring videos like this to make it possible to bring you guys great content. Hey everyone, welcome to the Copilot Studio Dudecast, and just know that we are going to have a really cool guest today. This is the first time I'm actually having a guest that's outside of Microsoft because of the fact that I think he's just an overall great guy, not to mention he's really big in the community and he's done a lot for the community for just numerous Microsoft products. So ladies and gentlemen, welcome Mr. John Siefert. John, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much, Dwayne. It's a pleasure to be here. I am stoked to be on the Copilot Studio Dudecast. It's something I've been wanting to do for quite some time as a avid follower of everything Copilot Studio, dude. So thank you for having me.
Yeah. So John, why don't you tell everybody what you do, where you work, how this all works out, because I think it's best if you kind of explain it, because you do so much for the community that it's difficult for me to even explain what all you actually have going on, because you just are all over the place, man.
Well, I'll try to not bore everybody here with it, but so I am my official job title is the CEO of Dynamic Communities, and Dynamic Communities is the parent company of Community Summit North America, which is it's the largest independent user conference for Microsoft business applications, AI stuff, Power Platform, that type of thing. And that runs every October in 2026. We'll be running October 11 to 15 in Nashville. We also do a partner event over the summer that is a partner executive event. And the reason why we do that one over the summer is because it's the start of the new fiscal year from Microsoft every year in July. And so what we try to do is connect executives over at Microsoft with partners in the ecosystem that are bringing solutions to market, so they can get kind of the first skinny, right, on all the new things and all the great stuff that's going to be coming into the new fiscal year. Give them kind of a jump start into the whole year. So that event runs in July in right outside Bellevue there in Washington. And then in the spring, we have an event called the AI Agent and Copilot Summit. And that one is going into its second year. That event this year bring about 750 to 1,000 folks together, business and technology leaders from mid-market and enterprise companies and such. And, at all of the events that we put together, Dwayne, what we try to do is we try to connect the 4 points of light in our ecosystem, right? So it's the creators at Microsoft, folks like yourself and so many others. It's the partners that are bringing the solutions to market, so all the big systems integrators, some of the neat stuff the ISVs are doing, that kind of thing. The buyers that are investing in the platforms, organizations that are putting big platform investments into Copilot Studio, into Azure, into Dynamics 365 and more. And then finally, all of the users who put this stuff to work every day inside their companies. So that's what we do. We call it the 4 points of light, and we just kind of try to bring everybody together in these physical events. We do it digitally through websites that are kind of around the globe, right, that help folks out with tips, tricks, tutorials, all that sort of thing for the community. And then we have a platform called Learners, which is really for local groups to get together and host a meeting in their hometown with some other people that are kind of interested in the same sort of stuff that they're interested in, or trying to figure out the same sort of stuff they're trying to figure out. And those are really kind of local meetings that are kind of built by and for the community in their local geographies. So that's kind of the big stuff that we do.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. And I've been working now with you for numerous years. I think I just happened to stumble upon you showing up at an event, and then you and I met. The next thing I know, you're hooking me on this new bourbon that you found at North America Summit. But the thing is that if you guys don't know, it doesn't take a lot to convince me to try a different bourbon. So so definitely if you ever see me around, we can give you a good bourbon suggestions if you need it. But at I know we have this AI and Copilot Summit that's coming up, the AI Agent Copilot Summit that's coming up here in March. And that particular event, I'm actually pretty excited about because of the fact that we were able to work together and you've got Donna Sarkar, you've got Ray Smith, Baz Bruckelmans, which was on this podcast, as a matter of fact. So, guys, if you want to go talk to Baz directly, he'll be at this event. Uh, all of these people, and you have April Dunham coming. And if you guys don't know who April Dunham is, stop the video, pause it right now, and go subscribe to April Dunham's YouTube. Because if you like my YouTube channel, she makes me be put to shame because of the fact that she is actually, I'll refer to her as my spirit animal when it comes to this. She's the one that said you need to really up your I guess what you call them, the little templates for the video, that the icons that you see. She was telling me that I really needed to up my game on that, that it was really becoming absurd that I had the number of followers I had. and I didn't even want to be on the pictures. I told her I didn't want to be on the pictures. I didn't want to be in the videos. I didn't want any of that. I just wanted just to make the content and just put it out there. And then I was informed by her and Donna that that was not an option for me. And Daniel Laskowitz also came along and did that for people who know who he is. And so the good news is that ended up where I end up getting to meet you. And now we've got this all-star agenda coming up for this AI Agent and Copilot Summit. And I'm really excited about it because what I like about this event, which is a little bit different than North America Summit, we'll talk about that a little later, but this event, what you did with it is you kind of go into a track. And so you're not worried about looking at this huge list of syllabus of different things that you could possibly go to. What you really did, and I know as being part of that programming committee that you asked me to be a part of, is we actually curated it and said, okay, you want to go sit in a room and learn about Copilot Studio? Here's the room to go sit in, and we'll bring the people to you. You don't have to run back and forth between where to go. You can just participate. And I think that was actually pretty brilliant for this particular event. I know eventually it might get too big for that to necessarily be the case, but I love it for this year at least that this is how people can come and they can come get everything they need to know. And I think we even decided we're going to kind of start it slow and work our way to hard, right? So I really like the way you thought about that.
Thank you, Dwayne. And you played such a big role, as did the rest of the programming committee board, in really trying to create that curation, to your point, of how we can really align this with how somebody's going to learn and how somebody's going to kind of ingest and digest all of the amazing content programming and ideas that come out of this programming. I guess a couple of things on AI Agent and Copilot. I mentioned it's the second year that we're doing the event, and pretty darn excited about it. You know, to your point, Dwayne, we've got some amazing Microsoft speakers that are going to be a part of the program. You mentioned Ray and Donna and Boz and April, and golly, there's about 15, 16 other Microsoft folks that are going to be a part of the program in different speaking spots through M365 Work IQ kind of programming. Like Ben Summers is going to be a part of the program now, going to be leading a roundtable with us at the event, and a number of others. But the thing that I think is sort of special about this event, and you're right, it's very different from Community Summit North America, because Summit North America, we bring together, golly, 5,000, 6,000 people right to that event. This event a lot more intimate. We're about 750, 1,000 people or so, which enables just some amazing conversations to happen because you can have a little bit smaller groups and that type of thing getting together. But the way we created the full program, and again, gang, it's going on March 17 to 19 at the Torrey Pines Hilton in San Diego. But on the 17th, we're going to do a pre-conference for people that are just really new to AI, right? Have not really done too much around it and that kind of stuff. We're actually calling it a Kickstart pre-conference. So there's going to be a sort of how to get started with AI and what some of the things are you can do to go from, dipping your toe in the water to maybe starting to think about how you become more production centric, right? With what you're doing with agents and the like. It'll touch on things like governance and access control and that kind of thing, but it's going to be a little bit more kind of a primer, if you will, for the rest of the event for folks that haven't had as much exposure. And then that evening on the 17th, we've got a opening reception program, and that's where Ray Smith is going to be talking through Agent 365 as the access control plane. We've got a best-selling author, another podcaster, a guy called Christopher Lockhead, who is just, in my mind, flat out brilliant, right? But he's got a brand new book coming out. He actually introduced the concept last year at AI Agent and Copilot Summit in a fireside chat called Creator Capitalist, and how to utilize AI to become a creator capitalist in today's market, as really defining what the future looks like for what businesses look like and where value really stands in as humans to become creators within this amazing environment that we're in. So that's going to be super cool. Speaking of bourbon, we're actually going to be doing a little bourbon and tequila tasting social program going on there on Tuesday evening after the opening reception. So Dwayne, we'll have a little bit of fun with that one with a bunch of folks and everything. So that's going to be really neat.
And don't forget, the most important thing is if someone wants to come and get, take me on with my pickleball skills. I'm going to be doing pickleball, and I think you're doing a golf tournament as well at the same time, and everything. So if you feel like you want to take on the dude when it comes to playing some pickleball in a tournament, I will be there, and I will warn you, I might be sandbagging for a bit.
So, gang, right before the pre-conference kicks in there on the 17th, there will be a pickleball tournament. Dwayne's going to be there. It's already selling out, so if you want to be a part of that one, please sign up for it. But that's going to be super fun and super cool. There's also a golf tournament going on that's at the iconic Torrey Pines golf course there in San Diego, which I know that one, there's no wait list to be a part of that thing and that kind of stuff. But boy, just some really neat kind of ways for people to engage together, some great content programming. The opening reception is going to be awesome. And then the other 2 days of the event are really kind of special because they are much more like a conference than they are like a big show, right? So we've got main stage programming going on for the first half of both days on the 18th and the 19th. Donna Sarkar, who Dwayne mentioned, is going to be doing the keynote on Wednesday morning. The title of her session is "Who's Afraid of Little Old Copilot?" Right, and kind of playing off the Taylor Swift stuff and that kind of thing. But she's got some amazing case studies and use case analysis and the like to contextualize for everybody in the room. Hey, what's real, right? Where are we? How do we make these things real? How do we work through some of the issues that we're working through and that kind of thing? I had a wonderful podcast I did just recently with Donna where we ended up kind of riffing for longer than I expected us to, kind of like when we get together, Dwayne, on just where the world is and where we see things going and all that sort of stuff. So super excited about that. Some great panel discussions that are going on that day as well. Things around AI impact assessments and the like. And then something else is going to be going on throughout the program is these things called industry accelerators, where I got a chance, to Dwayne's point, I spent a whole bunch of time in the community with people who, buy stuff and use stuff, right, in the Microsoft ecosystem. And so I've gotten an opportunity to meet with some amazing C-level individuals and other folks out there that are really trying to reimagine their companies and reimagine their industries based on how they're applying AI. And we've got some really neat stories that are going to be on that main stage that we're calling industry accelerators. And the cool part about this, gang, is it's not about getting the biggest Fortune 2 company on stage to talk about stuff. No, this is actually taking mid-market and enterprise companies that maybe you've heard of, maybe you've never heard of before, and have their leaders talk about how they have embraced the curiosity, the creativity, and the critical thinking it takes to reimagine their business with AI. And it's organizations in big box retail, right? It's organizations in healthcare. It's organizations in the nut and bolt category, right? Where we're going to have the CFO from Copper State Nut and Bolt talking about how he has been reimagining how they sell nuts and bolts, literally, with creating agents within the context of Copilot Studio. And in a category like that, where you've got razor thin margins, right? This individual, Carl Spackman's his name, he's going to talk about how he invented or created an agent that actually increased the profitability for the organization based on how they are selling agents and based on how they're selling nuts and bolts through to places like the Sphere in Las Vegas, right? And that kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of reinventing, right? I have to, John, we have to talk about what I've been doing because I've gotten myself into some trouble. And the trouble that I've gotten myself into is, we start working on AI, we need to figure out like what's happening in this space, right? And so one of the things that I started to kind of start playing with, which would kind of fit into the whole Copilot Studio dude thing, but you have to kind of think of it that, well, what if what I'm wanting to build is I'm wanting to build applications, or I'm wanting to be able to build something, or maybe I just want to build documentation or build something that's with code. I started recently working on vibe coding. And I didn't even know that this is what the name of this thing was, John. I just happened to be doing this because of a conversation I had with Baz the other day. And he scared me to the point where I went, I need to go figure out what this thing is and how it works. And so I got a hold of Claude Code and started playing with Claude Code. And for those that don't know, we have Copilot Studio architecture boot camps, and these boot camps, I now own the responsibility for rebuilding all of this new content. And the new content refresh for the first time ever is being delivered on February 24th in Redmond. And when I was building the content, one thing I noticed is I could really start using AI effectively to kind of build out what I needed to do and I could use a combination. So I used a combination of Claude Code, GitHub Copilot, all of these different things, because you really start finding the value of those Anthropic models whenever you start playing with them, especially and I have some ideas on this I'll throw out at you in a second, but the idea of building this boot camp, I needed to be able to refresh all this content. I needed to have a way to build a feedback collection system to be able to collect feedback from people on, is the content meeting their needs? Is the speaker speaking at the right level for you whenever you go to these boot camps? But then I also needed to be able to take it and rebuild portals and build documentation of how to do things and exercises and all this. And using a combination of Copilot for GitHub and using Claude Code in conjunction with GitHub and Azure and all of these other components, was able to really build some really cool stuff that I'm going to have some future podcasts. I'm actually going to bring people on. We're going to talk a little bit more about vibe coding because while this is Copilot Studio Dude, and we are going to talk a lot about Copilot Studio, I really think vibe coding and Copilot Studio come together at some point in the future. Now, I'm not saying that that's an announcement. This is just me just being a reasonable human being in this space going, this stuff is kind of the predecessor. It's the tip of the spear that's starting to come. And it just makes perfect sense that these things will start coming together. because it's really kind of cool what you can see. Now, John, in your space, I know that you said that one of the things when we were talking about what you were interested in talking about is you were talking about how all of a sudden, like, Anthropic's just exploding and all of this. So what's your perspective in this space? You're seeing it from a different angle than me.
I just think, first off, it's been what, 3 years, right? Since Anthropic's been around. I mean, it's happened so fast. And one of the things that I think is cool is just this kind of rapid prototyping method that's focused on NLP, or natural language prompts, to build, test, and get these things iterated like massively fast, right? And from my perspective, what used to take so long to do, right, we can now just get done in such a fast motion and such a fast trip through this, through the power of going through this process, that I just think it changes stuff super fast, and what I start to wonder, to your point, as these things come together, right, and we look at the role, Anthropic's currently playing it in Copilot Studio, and within the context of the platform, how big does big start to get, and how fast does fast start to get?
Yeah, and that's actually kind of the weird thing. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine, and I was trying to explain this. And here's how I laid it out to them, and see if you can kind of follow me here. Everybody that's probably going to watch this is going to look down at their phone, and their phone is going to be one of two types of phones, right? That's really what it comes down to, because almost everyone's carrying a smartphone. And this is the result of what I would refer to as the mobile revolution, right? So when we had the mobile revolution, and if I came to you and I said, what was the piece of technology that allowed for the mobile revolution to happen? Some people would come and say the iPhone. Some people would come and tell me that it had something to do with the wireless networks. But I'm going to tell you that I completely disagree. And I believe that the actual innovation that led the mobile innovation that we have today was the capacitive touchscreen, where your finger could become the stylus and it work in a way where it's accurate enough for you to not need a keyboard or a form factor or a really unsensitive thing, so that you can swipe, you could pinch and zoom and all of these different things. And sure, the iPhone was kind of the institution of this that really came out. And if you really think back, they had to put a glass screen on it, which of course broke within 15 seconds. But the reality is the innovation was that capacitive touchscreen. Now, where you take that and you say, okay, what is that capacitive touchscreen moment for AI? And I believe that the actual innovation that did this is not the large language models that we originally had. It was something a little bit more subtle. It's actually the invention and the evolution to the point where it's not like we didn't have touchscreens before. It was the capacitive touchscreen that made the difference. In this case, I believe that we finally got a quality reasoning model, and the reasoning model is the thing that actually takes it to the next level, is the fact that we're starting to get reasoning built into these models. So if you think about it, GPT-5 is where you got the reasoning in conjunction with the summarization capabilities that kind of came together, and the ability to see visual and audio and all of that came into a single model. At the same time, that's what you're seeing, that really the Claude stuff, it's why it took off, right? The Claude, between Sonnet and Opus, I mean, you really get into, they have the ability to reason. And it's really interesting, because I think this is the innovation that takes it to a level where it makes you, I will tell you, my initial response was terrified.
Yeah.
But then after you start using it, you realize, the same way that I used to be an exchange architect at Microsoft, I was really worried back in the day, will I even have a job anymore, because of the fact that who's going to design email servers and calculate IOPS of storage groups, right? That's what I used to do. If I'd stayed stationary, John, I would be unemployed. But the fact of the matter is that if you're not out working on this stuff, and then you realize what your value add is, you realize where you would be at risk. You understand what jobs would be at risk, but it's very different. I don't think it's a displacement of a massive number of humans. I think it's just that humans are going to do something slightly different, and our value proposition has to shift. It's not the value of how I can calculate IOs of disk and be able to build disk arrays for Exchange server databases. It's about the fact that I need to evolve to be able to say, I don't need to do that anymore because it's done for me. So now what do I do? And I think it's just because so many people associate themselves to writing code as their value that is the problem.
So take a step up and back on that idea, Dwayne, real quick, right? Hold on one second. I just have to have a sip of my tea.
Yeah, here, I'll take a drink as well.
But if you take a step up and back on that, I have for a little while now been talking about this premise, and it's not just for coding, right? It's for kind of work in total, right? But I call it an activity spectrum. And I have done this at big events over the years and all that sort of thing. And I'll always ask people, hey, where do you spend your time on an activity spectrum? How much of your time is spent reactive, how much of your time is spent active, and how much of your time is spent proactive? And for, years, right? Years and years and years, the numbers have been kind of 70, 20, 10. 70% of my time is spent reactively, 20% of my time is spent actively, like collaborating with somebody or something. And 10% of my time has been spent proactively, like imagining, creating, right, inventing, or whatever, the future. I think because of those reasoning models, right, because of what agents have the potential to do within the context of workflow and process and that type of thing, it's going to take over, and they already are taking over a ton of that reactive stuff that used to fill professional people's days, right? Reacting to X, I'm reacting to Y, I'm reacting to Z. Where it becomes really interesting as we go through 26 and go through 27 and go through 28, those people made really fantastic livings on how incredibly great they were at being reactive at something. Right, I'm reactive at doing this, and I'm the best at reacting to this thing, right? And as agents take that role over, as AI in general takes that role over, I actually think that kind of reskilling or reimagination of the human skill has to be significantly more proactive, has to be significantly more creative, has to be extremely imaginative, right? To bring value into things, because if you've done so incredibly well being reactive through your career, you're kind of going to get hosed, right? So what you've got to do is start to reimagine what it means to be 70% of your time proactive as opposed to 70% of your time reactive in order to really put a stake in the ground.
Yeah, and I think this is where there's also a lot of people that will go, oh, well, Claude's the answer to everything. And I can tell you after using it, right, it's not the answer to everything. It's an answer for a thing, right? And so like whenever we talk about Copilot Studio in general and what it does, there are things that you won't have Claude go do, right? You're not going to have it go and help you report your lost credit card and make sure that you've signed all the forms and verified in legal terms, right? And all of these things, because there's many things that have to remain scripted. There are also other things that are better at different things, not to mention who's going to spend the money to run Opus on every single thing, right? And Sonnet does some things well, and other products do other things well. And I think it kind of goes into the problem that we run into all the time with inside a Copilot Studio world, which is, when people are confused about what to use and when to use it and stuff like that. Have you run into that same kind of problem, John?
Sure. I mean, I think I was just doing a roundtable discussion with some tech folks, right, in mid-market and enterprise companies on, it was just a few days ago. And that literal topic just came up, Dwayne. In fact, that was one of the things I was going to ask for some of your guidance on, because we were trying to figure out, hey boy, we want to create this agent, and this agent within the context of a business. And we were talking one stage to a big box retailer, on another stage to a smaller retailer, right? And then another stage, a discrete manufacturing company. And we were talking about how to build these different agents that they want to build. So we started to say, okay, where's the data? What are you trying to do? What's the problem that you're trying to solve? That kind of thing. And the big question that came up was, hey, do we do pro development work on this and utilize something like Azure AI Foundry to create this agent from scratch? Do we use Copilot Studio and the low code, no code tooling that's available within the context of the environment against the business need that we're trying to achieve? And in one of three cases, it was create the agent from scratch, right? Utilize Azure AI Foundry. In the other two cases, we're actually modeling how to do it in Copilot Studio. So I'd be curious, for your context, how are you guiding people through that?
Yeah, it really comes down to several different aspects of when you start to do this. It's like the biggest risk for any organization is to walk in and go, everything's a nail and I've got a hammer.
Yeah.
This is where we run into this problem all the time. These different things exist because they have different value propositions. Let's just give it an example, right? We established that Claude is really good at writing code. You know what it's not really good at? It's not really good at telling jokes or having a good personality. Is GPT-5 really good at personality? No, but is Grok? Well, heck yeah, Grok is. So as you start looking at these different things, what you're going to find is, even in the world of LLMs, you want to figure out which is the right one to use. Matter of fact, just to give you some perspective, John, one of the like trainings that I just took inside of Microsoft was when to use Sonnet, when to use Opus, when to open a completely different session with Claude to be able to optimize your prompts and be able to deal with the compacting issues that you run into with it,
Nice.
Things of that nature. And these things are important to understand. And I probably just lost like 50% of the audience in what I'm even talking about. But my point to you is going to be, you have to think about how to use these tools in the right way, in the right place. And I'll give you a great example. If all you're wanting is a general chit chat, then you might want to use like the cheapest mini model that does the good quality coming back. There's actually some Microsoft models that are actually pretty decent at doing this, and things of that nature. So again, when we look at it from a spectrum of models, we should be paying attention to the model and what is its best intended use. And then you need to figure out, if it's not one, and this is where we run into the problem, because everybody runs around going, oh, it's just one. I got to solve, I've got this nail and I need the hammer. And what they do is they just go and they just drive that nail with a sledgehammer, right? Or they go and they try to do it with the wrong thing, because my industry standard thing is we only use GPT 4.1 here, right? Or something like that. But the reality is, everybody needs to start thinking that they have their Batman tool belt. And Batman doesn't use one tool. He uses a host of tools. Now, when you get into why to use one versus the other and all of that, it kind of gets into a bit of nuance. So Copilot Studio, let's just take it for a second, and let's take the Microsoft platform for a minute. If we talk about Copilot Studio is like buying a router. If you go up to Cisco and you say, I want to buy a router, are they going to tell you to go write the kernel for your router? No, they're just going to say, give me the route table, and then let it handle routing the network, right? So it's the same concept with Copilot Studio. At its core, it's a conversational orchestration engine. It's the orchestrator. And what it is it's an appliance. It's not the fact that you can't go build this yourself. The question becomes, can you run Exchange Server at your office? You can. Can you load Exchange Server up into an IaaS server inside of Azure? You can. But Who does this, right? Nobody does this anymore because it's not financially viable for you to do that. And it's not just the cost of the software, because sure, I think Microsoft will still sell Exchange Server. I don't know anybody that buys it, but my point is, I'm pretty sure it's cheaper than buying Office 365 because it doesn't come with storage and the service and everything else that you got to have, the reporting, the governance, pipeline management. All of this is what Copilot Studio does inside of the SaaS. So if you look at that as the core, and it's the router, it's the hosting platform that you're going to use, then you start getting into Foundry, right? Where does Foundry come in? Well, Foundry is going to be the thing that you use to be able to make your implementation of models or very model-specific agents that you want, where you want to fine-tune them. You want to be I want full control of this thing because I need that customization level. The commodity's not quite right for me. I need to go use this. Can you use that in conjunction with Copilot Studio to be orchestrated? Absolutely. And if you're not doing that, then you're actually causing yourself a problem long-term. Then we go into Agent Builder. Well, what is Agent Builder? Well, Agent Builder is the thing that you give to citizen developers, because Copilot Studio is like giving them a Cisco router interface and asking them to figure out how to route. So what is Agent Builder? Agent Builder is that citizen developer for building declarative agents. And if you don't know what a declarative agent is, it's basically an agent that points at data and answers questions grounded over the data. So, and you can put prompts in and explain how it should behave and things like that. But it's not connecting to your back-end APIs and doing it's that custom app building. Custom app building, again, Copilot Studio, Foundry plays in that. And then we open up the SDK, right? So then you've got the SDK. Well, where does that play? Well, the SDK plays, what if you have a custom interface that you need to be able to talk to? You need it to go through an API or your own custom web interface that is more custom to what you need versus just your normal chat interfaces and all. And this is where the SDK starts to come in, because you can do stuff. And the SDK, or the M365 Copilot SDK, is really the rebirth of the bot framework, which has always been there. Even when Copilot Studio was PVA, or Power Virtual Agents, there was still a bot framework SDK. And guess what? You're not going to believe this, John. But Copilot Studio is built on top of it. And did I mention that Copilot Studio is built on top of Foundry? And yes, can you go rebuild Copilot Studio yourself? Yes, if you want to. But it's going to cost you an arm and a leg, and we have thousands of engineers building it so that you don't have to, that you can just use the commodity Cisco router to go do it. And so this is where a lot of people get confused, and they don't pull out their tool belt, their Batman tool belt. Like if you said, I'm going to use this Copilot Studio, I'm never going to use Foundry, wrong answer, right? It's use the right tool for the right job, just like you should use the right model for the right job. And that's why you'll see Copilot Studio supports all these different models, even Foundry models and everything. The reason behind that is because one is not the answer. It's you've got to bring the right thing. And for people who are out there trying to figure out how to adopt it, if you don't know where to use the right thing, that's where you need to come and see John and I. And so that we can help you figure out how to put all the pieces together. And if there's questions and stuff, you guys load up the chat and let me know, like in the comments, let me know. Where are you confused? Like, where's the confusion? Where do you want to see? All of those type of things. And I'll make sessions for John's events for you, and I'll also do videos and all that type of stuff. But that's the kind of thing, and I feel like, John, that's the thing that people really need. Now, and from your perspective, does this make sense, kind of where I'm headed with all this?
Oh, 100%. And it's your analogy of the Batman belt, right? And hey, it's got multiple tools in it and all that sort of thing. It's not just the same hammer that you're banging on every single nail, right? And that kind of stuff. That's sort of what I meant about this need for us, because that's a reactive way to think about it, right? Oh, okay, I have this thing. Okay, my reaction is I'm just going to use this to solve that problem because this is what I know or I've learned or whatever it is. The reality is today we've got to expand our minds to really consider what is the problem, what is the unique situation, what is the special opportunity that we're trying to achieve, and then step up and back to think about what makes the most sense. How do we apply critical thinking, right, to then figure out what makes the most sense to achieve this, and realize not everything is as siloed as it used to be, right? It used to be massively siloed. That's not how this world works today, right? These things come together, and that's also one of the reasons why I said it, even just this conversation we were having about vibe coding and Anthropic and Claude and all this, it really makes you wonder how big is going to become and how big has the potential to be.
Yeah, I mean, you really get down to it. I thought for a while there, I'll be honest, if you and I had this conversation at last year's summit, for the Copilot Summit, and you came to me and you said, hey, Dwayne, is it going to ever slow down? I would have said, yeah, probably in a couple of years. What I would tell you is where I sit right now, we have yet to see the gas pedal be pushed.
Yeah.
We have been idling for the last few years. The amount of innovation that is about to happen in this space, now that we can actually allow reasoning of thought to be used in conjunction with all of this stuff that we've been playing with, where we were the reasoning engine.
Yeah, totally.
Right? Now we're going to see it just explode, because the way that I like to think about it is you want to start thinking that you are no longer responsible for your value proposition is not writing code. Your value proposition is not knowing how to deploy to Azure or to work with Visual Studio Code and get things through GitHub and doing pushes and reviewing PRs. That's not your value add anymore. What your value add is for you to assemble it and make sure that it's producing the quality and scale of thing that you need, and for you to innovate, because you're the innovation layer. It's the worker bee. Let it go be the worker bee. No, your value proposition isn't being a worker bee. Your value proposition is dream it. If you can dream it, then you can do it. And that is going to be a almost like revolutionary thing that's happening now, because the fact that I can just say, make me an app that does this. Matter of fact, I challenge you guys, go to YouTube and don't watch my channel, go watch somebody else's. And that is, I watched one where there was a professional developer, Swift developer, competing with a vibe coder. They got 5 prompts that they could use to rebuild an app that was a popular app on the Apple Store. Go watch that and ask yourself, because I'll give you a little hint. Sorry, I'm going to run the episode for you. The Swift developer does not do as good as the Vibe developer. But I want you to watch it and pay attention to what they're doing and how they approach the problem, because that's the shift you have to take in the way that you go about it. And the great thing about it, John, is that they actually had a conversation back and forth on this about why they were taking the approach they were taking. And if you watch the way a developer thinks and the way the developer goes in these if-then statements versus the way that someone who vibe codes, who is thinking the AI is going to answer those questions and handle that part for them, and is more focused on the definition of what looks good and helping it understand what it needs to do, it really changes how you think about it. And I will tell you, just watching something like that, I went back and started doing more evolutions of these different products that I've been working on. And it literally revolutionized the way that I build prompting and the way that I ask for things. And I could build the thing that took me 12 hours in 6 hours, and for half the price in tokens, because of the fact that I'm thinking about it in a different way than I would as a technical person. But I will say there is value in still being technical and knowing how software is developed and how all that type of stuff. That's a lot of value. But it doesn't mean you have to do it. It just means you have to understand it.
You have to understand it. And this is one of the, I think this is such an important point, Dwayne, right? I use a fishing analogy when I talk about this a lot, right? I'll say, how many people know how to fish, right? A whole bunch of people raise their hand. How many people know how to properly bait a hook, right? A few hands go down. How many people know how to properly cast? How many people know how to pull the fish in, right? How many people know how to take the fish off the hook? How many people know how to skin the fish, fillet the fish, and cook the fish, right? More and more hands go down every single question that I ask when I ask this in a live thing. That is because, well, and then what I do is I say, how many people know how to go to Costco and buy the salmon that's prepackaged for you and is right there for you to buy and bring home and put on your grill, right? And everybody laughs and raises their hand and such. It's very important for us as we go through this revolution, right? This evolution and revolution, that we don't forget what it means to fish, right? We don't forget what it means, what the technology is actually doing below this stuff. It doesn't mean just because this stuff can do these things for us that we shouldn't have an understanding of why and how that works. And I think the same thing is true with fishing.
And it's the same thing. I'll even take it a step further in your analogy. I can definitely go to a nice place, a nice fish restaurant, and order a good piece of fish, maybe even better than I can cook, because there's an expert that's doing it. But I know what I like, and I can tell them how I want it prepared. So it's like, to your point, the value is not, you still got a tasty meal, right, on the back end. The quality doesn't have to be sacrificed. It just means that we can now make fish for 3 million people instead of making fish for 300 people with the same resources.
But it takes an understanding of what that fish represents, right? And what you want that fish to be, right? In my mind, honestly, and I think we've gone through this. There was something that came out in the late 90s, early 2000s that was called Big IT. And it was about how IT becomes so big, nobody's going to understand how it works. They're just going to use it. Now, pick up your mobile phone and tell me that you understand how all of these things work inside your mobile phone, right? Most people don't, right? They don't understand how all of these things can work in parallel and simultaneous action and all that kind of stuff. But they do. My point on this is we have to be careful that we don't just say, hey, coding's not important anymore because this will do it for us. We have to understand the importance of coding. We have to understand why coding matters within the context of what we build, what we create, and what we do. But we also have to apply curiosity, creativity, and critical thinking when we put these things to work, because that's where I think that's where the secret sauce is now for putting some of these amazing reasoning tools that we have at our fingerprints to be able to utilize to put them to work. And we do those things, and that starts to, in my mind, define human value. But we just don't want to forget how to take that fish off the hook, man, right? It's important.
Well, I'll just warn you, John, if you ever see me go fishing, I am, just to be clear, I grew up in a little town called Gray, Georgia, and which had like one blinking traffic light in it, which is where I grew up. And what's interesting is I can't catch a fish to save my life. I swear I've tried. I'm a horrible fisher, but you know what? For those that don't know, like some people will have known me for a little bit longer, they'll know that if you go back to, even in these videos, you go back to some of the earliest ones that get pictures of me, you're going to see that I weighed a whole lot more. and people were like, how did you lose 55 pounds in 3.5 months? And the answer was, I ate a lot of fish. And so if I was dependent on catching fish, I would have lost it by starving. But the answer was, no, I ate really well. I just ate a lot of fish and grilled chicken. And changed my diet. So the point being is, if we look at this and you look at it in general across the board, the idea here is you need to be able to identify the way forward for yourself. And you need to be able to understand that your value proposition is more than being a fisherman, that your value proposition is being the one who can say, this is what kind of fish I would want, and take advantage of all the tools and everything in front of you, and not spend all day trying to catch a fish, then taking it back. And I'm not saying there's not value in that, people don't find it fun. I'm just saying, in order to just get a piece of fish for dinner, if I had to go out and catch it, then I'd have to come back and skin it and have to fillet it and then cook it and prep it and everything else. That'd be a wholly inefficient way for dinner tonight. But I can go and take care of that, and I can go have my fish tonight. So the same way is the way people need to start looking at this across the board. And I think as we kind of start talking about some of the new things that are coming, I know we've got the new North America Summit stuff that's coming toward the end of the year. And I'm really excited about that. No, just so you guys know, John didn't put it there just because I live in Nashville. But because I do live in Nashville, if you find me when you're here for that event, that does mean I can tell you the right places to go. So that's another reason to come out. But the answer is not going to be to go to Broadway. and I'll tell you where to go, like 2 blocks over from Broadway, that'll have a much better time. But the point is, I'm really excited about that event because this event's going to time pretty good with us starting to realize the value of this revolution that's happened with these reasoning models. And what's happening, and people don't see this right now because they see Claude code, but what they don't see is the stuff that's happening on the back end with the flywheel that's spinning up with the innovation that happens. Because a lot of people think, well, oh yeah, this thing's cool. Well, that thing that you're seeing today had to go through several levels of iteration. So imagine now I arm an army of people with the ability to be 300% more efficient and being able to write code, and then give them the same amount of time you're used to for innovation. Just imagine where we're going to be by the time we get to the North America Summit, which, by the way, and I'll give you your shameless plug here. I got the email today that says that they're calling for content. So if you're a speaker, you need to go sign up and go say that you want to present there, put the sessions in and everything. Ignore that my ugly face is on the email. Just forget that. I did not. I told them I'm going to charge them royalties for that one. But the thing is
and we will pay.
But the thing is, make sure you guys go. If you can't present, then definitely make sure that you're coming, because I really do think this is going to be the time frame where there's going to be massive innovation. And what I like pairing up is a combination of your event and things like Power Platform Conference and Ignite and Build, because what I kind of feel like is those events kind of give you the understanding of what's kind of coming and what's all there and all the new innovation and all of those type of things. But I like whenever we come to your events, because a lot of times it's the community talking about how to consume that stuff. And so when I have come to your events, I've always tried to enter it with the concept that I'm not coming there to talk about the new features. I'm talking about how to consume it and how I make it real. That's what my YouTube channel has always been about, and I think that's why it lands for a lot of people. But the other thing that I'm working on is trying to make sure that the CAT organization, or the Copilot acceleration team, and the CAPE team, and our CAD team, which are all these teams, what they do is they're part of engineering, but they are the practical application teams. They're the ones working with the customers and figuring out what are the big feature gaps, the big bugs, the things that keep people from being able to use the products. Those are the people I'm hoping I can really turn up at your event, because they don't necessarily get the stage at these larger ones where we're talking about new features. Those are more product focused, but I think the value is, if you guys aren't following a lot of the people that are in CAT, like Remy Dion and Henri Jams and Addie Latsko, there's just all these people who work with me and my team that are just amazing. Like, they know this stuff cold on how to get it in, and I'm hoping that what we can do is really show up there and be able to do that. And I think it's going to happen. I think that event's going to be pretty amazing. So if you want to come, first, I think you're starting registration at some point. But then if you want to present and you're part of the community and you're an MVP and you start going and playing with all this cool stuff, you need to put in a session. Like, there's your challenge. Go put in a session. If you put in a good enough session, I'll even co-present with you if you want me to.
Oh, that is big. Gang, great, awesome points there from Dwayne, and boy, so excited to have Dwayne and some of the CAT team and the like that can bring some of this to life with everybody. Just for a little context, everybody, summitna.com is the website. You can get all the details there. The call for speakers did officially just open. It'll be open until March 31st. And this gives us, from the day this goes live, a little over a month, right? Month and a half, whatever it is, until the call for speakers ends. You will go into that environment and you will see it's pretty easy to understand how to do these things. And I'm going to give you a couple of tips real quick, right? If you were to go in and do this. The first one is, do not try to get too gimmicky with the title of your session, right? That's one of the things that is tough, because you get gimmicky or cheeky or whatever it is, and then nobody really understands what it's going to be, and you lose out on people coming to your session. And you also lose out on the programming committee really kind of recognizing, oh boy, there's big value here and that kind of thing. So just a little thought there. Second thing is, you will notice that every call for speaker submission requires 3 learning objectives that are aligned with your session. Be very sort of direct and intentional with those learning objectives, because that then goes into the kind of marketing that's used to position your session to all of the attendees that are going to be at the event. So just a couple of tips there. For context, last year in 2025, we had about 1,700 submissions. We could accept 1,600, or we could accept 600, 700 of them, right around there. It's pretty, we get a whole bunch of people that come into Dwayne's point, because it's the community helping each other, right? It's really for user, by user kind of environments that bring everybody together. But just like I mentioned at the very beginning, Dwayne, the neat part of Summit North America is it truly connects the 4 points of light in this community, right? It's the creators at Microsoft, the partners bringing the solutions to market, the buyers investing in the platforms, and the users putting them to work every day. And then we end up with 600, 700 sessions that help everybody do that stuff.
And I learned a very valuable lesson at North America Summit last year, because it like literally was like the week before Power Platform Conference. Right. So we were trying to get some other people from Microsoft to come, but everybody was just slammed. So I ended up doing 8 or 10 sessions at this thing. And I thought that the sessions that were going to be popular, the most popular one was going to be the really deep one. Guys, the really deep ones alienate your audience. You want a big group of people to talk to you? Guess what? I did the Copilot Studio 101 for the first time ever at this event, and we had to run it again because people were complaining that the room wasn't big enough. And then we did it the second time, and the room still wasn't big enough. And so the reality is, will there be a Copilot Studio 101 at North America Summit? You betcha there's going to be one. And not only that, John's going to make sure it's in a big room. So the thing is, don't overdo it. The value that you're bringing is bring something real, something people can relate to, and I think you'll get pretty far. So with that, John, I'm going to turn it to the question that I have to ask every single person whenever they come on my podcast, and that is going to be, so what is going on in the space of AI and conversational AI across the board, and it can be conversational AI or just general AI, that has got you most excited about what you're actually seeing happen these days?
Well, I'm going to answer it in 2 different parts, right? Because the stuff that's getting me excited right now is the persistent memory and personalization stuff. Like I like where that's headed. I like where that's going. I think it's getting smarter and better and the like. So I think that's cool. I think the pedal needs to be put down even further, right? And those sorts of things to get better and better on that side. What I'm kind of most excited, but also a little tripped out on, right, is the empathy and emotional intelligence. Like that's where how close do we get to AGI and some of these things, and that sort of stuff is where I start to trip a little bit. But I'm very curious to see what people who are smarter than me are putting to work against that right now.
Yeah, I think it's going to be very interesting as we continue to go forward. I think one of the recent, if you guys think that I make a lot of YouTube, you should see how much I consume. There was like a video where there was some test against all the different AIs that are out there for consumer AIs. Then they were asking it questions about like morality type of things and seeing how it answered. And believe it or not, if you avoided the question, then that was considered a fail. And so what was interesting, as humans, we expect it to answer with an empathy level and behave in a certain way. Like if I say that I'm going to Disney World and my mom has a hard time walking, and you just go spit out a whole bunch of facts, and you don't go, I'm sorry to hear that she's having a difficulty, but let me help you with that, right? There's a way and a tone to be able to do that. And I think there's just in general a lot that's going to happen in that space to be able to get better. But I think it's going to be very interesting as we continue. Well, John, thanks for coming out, being on the show. I really appreciate it. How can, just gonna close out, how can people keep in touch with you? We know about the North America Summit websites and all that, but where would you recommend people go to be able to learn more or to be able to connect up with you?
Easiest thing is LinkedIn, right? For me, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn and the like, and then obviously, and it's just at John K. Siefert on LinkedIn. But also, I'm fully available on each one of our sites. So Dynamics with an S, communities.com, cloudwars.com, and agentandcopilot.com are our primary news and analysis sites that I am very active on and super available on, and would love to hear from everybody.
Well, thanks again for coming out. For people who are fans of the channel, what I would be interested in is give me some comments. I'm really interested in you guys telling me, do you like me bringing some people that aren't necessarily Microsoft on? Do you like me talking about stuff that isn't just Copilot Studio, but just AI in general? I have some guests that I'm planning on bringing on. I might even try to make April Dunham and Donna Sarkar show up if you guys push me hard enough to say that you want to see them. And you, of course, if we have Donna Sarkar, we're going to be talking about side hustles. It's the only thing that Donna ever talks to me about is side hustling. And I even got a lecture this week about my need to side hustle even harder, John. So, so just be aware that that type of content, I'm really interested in seeing what you guys have to say. And again, thanks, John, for coming out. And you guys don't forget to like and subscribe and be able to watch some of the content. I won't lie, I am working on the new boot camp series. If you guys haven't subscribed to go do one of the boot camps, we've got one February 24th in Redmond, and I think we've got one in March that we're going to be doing in Atlanta. These things are free, and they are the CAT team training you for 3 days immersion on Copilot Studio and getting you real world into it. So, and not only that, it's not just the value of being able to go there and get the hands-on labs and all that type of stuff. You also get access to some of the best and most technical people in Copilot Studio in the world. So I would highly recommend that if you are not attending one of these, go sign up. And the one in Atlanta it might run out of spots, but it's going to have a virtual aspect to it. It's going to be a hybrid event. So even if you can't physically travel, you guys need to go sign up for these things. Because if you want to know why I haven't been building as many videos, educational videos, it's because I've been building a 3-day deep dive course for you guys. So, and that's all going to be coming available and making it and such. And just so you know, it's kind of a group thing. A lot of the CAT guys all jumped in to be able to pull all this stuff together. And you can come and check out my new Vibe Code feedback system that I built as well. And you guys can tell me how horrible of a developer I am whenever I am unleashed with the AI. So with that, thanks again, John, for coming. I look forward to seeing you at the events. And for the rest of you guys, I hope to see you there as well. John?
Thank you so much, Dwayne. Pleasure to be here. And thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
Have a good day, guys.